All right, well, we're back and we're in Romans chapter 1. We've been talking about how sin and how man's response to God results in the darkening of his heart, and yet it leaves him without any excuse. We're in verse 21. They became futile in their speculations about God, and their heart was darkened. And then in verse 22 it says, professing to be wise. I've never met a person who didn't think that what they believed was true. Right? I mean, it could be the dumbest thing, but you don't believe something that you know is wrong. I mean, none of you believe in Santa Claus, do you? Good. All right. Because you know it's wrong. You couldn't possibly with an oath say, I totally believe in Santa Claus, and he lives in the North Pole part of the year. And then make up all this story about Santa. You wouldn't do that because we know it's not true. Nobody believes something they know isn't true. That's contrary to what believing is about. So, professing to be wise, they became fools, and they exchanged, here's the sin of mankind. All humanity. They exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible man. Humanity worships itself. Don't kid yourself. Humanity worships itself, and in our culture, it's person to person. It's not, we've got an image of a human that we all bow down to. We've got ourselves in the mirror, and we bow down to ourselves. They make a form of corruptible man, and of birds, and of four-footed animals, and of crawling creatures. And if you think that was just the ancient world, you need to take a trip to Asia. You need to take a trip to Africa. You need to take a trip to the outer islands in the Pacific and see if people aren't still worshiping birds and animals and four-footed beasts. They are. One of the things that struck me in Thailand was every business and every house had a little birdhouse in front of it on a pedestal. And I said to our host, what's with the birdhouses? I mean, the birds must really be fed well here. And he says, no, those are the houses for the spirit gods. And they will put fruit and Coca-Cola and candy out there so that the spirits will not harass their families. They're worshiping the gods of the forest, the gods of the air, the gods of... And I say, really? These are spirit houses? Wow. That's the foolishness of man's heart. That's what's rendering them blind. They prefer that darkness rather than light. And there's no excuse because they know there's a spirit world, there's God, but I prefer this way rather than changing what I do. Wow, what an indictment. So when people say, what about the people who have never heard? I go, well, they would have to be living off of creation with no history. Right? And there's nobody that's ever lived for a year, for a couple of years, living off of creation with no history. So even if they've never heard the gospel, they're still guilty for worshiping the creature rather than the Creator. As it says, verse 25, for they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. That's the whole heart of sin. That is, you say, what's wrong with humanity? Look what it's doing to itself. Here's what it's doing to itself. It's worshiping itself rather than the God who created them. And it's turning so that you and I, who have a view about God, who thinks a certain way, that we're going to be called the hate mongers. We're going to be ostracized and punished for hating humanity because we won't accept people worshiping their own appetites. You know, as Paul said in Philippians chapter 3, he says, they've made their appetite God. Think about that. The things they hunger for have become the gods they serve. You explain what's going on, it's like everybody has their own God. What's their God? It's their appetite. What are they hungering for now? That's what they'll bow down to and serve. Seriously? Well, you think about it. Tell me if that's wrong. If everybody's worshiping their own God and their own God is their own appetite, no wonder why everybody gets in everybody else's way. And there's so much chaos. Now, I know I'm being reductionistic and simplistic, but in the big picture, that's what's going on. And that's what happens in churches. It's what happens at ball fields. So it happens everywhere. I say ball fields because there were several fights at the stadiums this week. You know, people getting out of the ballpark and they just fought with each other, punching and kicking and, you know, and you're going, it's just a game, dudes. But they're worshiping their own appetites, and your appetite is not my appetite, and so I'm going to get rid of you because you're getting in the way of my worship. I mean, if you think about it in plain terms. What is the Christian called to? We're called to worship not ourselves, but the true and living God. And so if I'm not the center of the universe, how am I going to treat you? A whole lot different, because you're not getting in my way. You can't take anything away from me because the things in this life aren't the things I worship anymore. So if you took it all, as Jesus said, if he takes your coat, don't forbid him to take your cloak. Give it to him. If he slaps you on one side of the face, turn your other side of the face and let him hit that one too. Bless those who persecute you. Bless them. Like, well, I hope things go well for you. I know you just smacked me in the face, but I really do hope things go well for you. Wow. How can you possibly think like that? Easy. I'm from another kingdom. I took myself, and I tried to keep myself by the Spirit of God off the altar, and you can't hurt me. I mean, what can you do to me? Don't fear them who, once they kill the body, have nothing more to do with you. Fear him who, once he kills the body, has the power to send you to hell. Right? That's what I believe. We've changed our mind about how this whole universe works. It's not working because of dumb luck and the role of an evolutionary die. It's working because the true and living God spoke it into existence, and he's running things exactly the way he needs it to run in order for people to turn to him. And you're proof of that. But for those that don't turn, no excuse. For God gave them over to the lusts of their heart, to impurity, to their bodies, so that they would be dishonored among them. And they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. For this reason, because they did that, God gave them over to degrading passions. For their women exchanged the natural function for which it is unnatural. And the same way also men abandoned the natural function of the woman and burned in their desire towards other men. Men with men committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. Do you know that by teaching that and believing that homosexuality is a sin, we're being called hate mongers and homophobes and haters of humanity? If you don't think that, just read the news headlines sometime. Now, does that mean I hate the person who's embedded in that kind of sin? No. Otherwise, I would have never done street ministry in Fort Lauderdale. I would have never been led to go overseas. I would have never pastored a church. But to say that kind of behavior is okay is wrong. The same way I would say infidelity among heterosexuals is wrong. It's just wrong. I'm not being a heterophobic. It's just wrong. Thievery is wrong. Lying is wrong. Right? You want me to keep going? That doesn't mean I hate the person who tells a lie. It just means the lie is wrong. So don't give me these false monikers and titles like I'm something phobic simply because I say a certain behavior is wrong. And I don't hate you unless you beat me at golf. No. I don't care about that. Right? I mean, out of all the people on the face of the earth, we should be the kindest and most understanding about bizarre and aberrant behavior. Because we know why it happens. Anyway, any questions about what we've read so far? We're almost finished with chapter 1. It kind of speaks for itself. And verse 28, and just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, that goes all the way back up to verses 25 and 23 and 21. They did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer. God gave them over to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper. Now, is God making them do things not proper? Nope. He's just letting them, like Burger King, have it your way. You want to do those things? Okay. So, God gave them over to a depraved mind. Verse 29, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed. I mean, listen to these next few verses. Greed, evil, full of envy, full of murder, strife, deceit, malice, gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful, and although they know the ordinance of God, their conscience tells them doing this kind of junk is wrong, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, or at least punishment, they not only do the same, but they give hearty approval to those who practice the same things. That was Monday morning in high school. You know, when I got saved and the first time I read that verse, I thought about Monday morning in high school. You know, Friday afternoon, everybody splits and they do their thing on the weekend. And on Monday morning, what is the first thing we did as guys? We talked about how bad we were over the weekend. And they go, yeah, well, that was nothing. You went to South Beach and did that? Man, we not only went to South Beach, but then we went up to Fort Lauderdale and then we went over and boy, the party and you go, wow, you were badder than I was. And so we give hearty approval to the people who are doing the same things. That's the human race. That's humanity right now. Unless God steps in and tells you another way to live. All right. Well, we got like 1 minute left of our time. Any questions or thoughts? We've, for my purpose, finished chapter 1. But Paul's got another chapter and a half of telling us how bad humanity is before he starts saying, but now, verse 21 of chapter 3, but now the righteousness of God has been revealed apart from the law. You don't have to keep all the rules. Somebody did it for us. But anyway, what else have we got to say? You've been a great audience. I can tell you're not cardboard cutouts. And that laughter is not canned. Bye-bye.